ASMR Magical Tools. So I had this idea. I feel like Cards Against Humanity really lends itself to pick a card readings. To make it a little bit more YouTube friendly, a little bit more YouTube friendly and channel friendly. I did go through and these cards were the ones that I deemed inappropriate for my channel, but that still leaves most of the deck intact. And if I run across anything that's too risque for the censors, I will use euphemisms. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, take out a lot of these white cards, and I'm going to make like 9 stacks of the white cards here, and I've shuffled them quite a bit. So we've got our 9 stacks here of the white cards. And then the black cards is going to be the title for each one of these stacks. And whichever one of these Cards Against Humanity questions you resonate with the most, that's going to be what you can look for in the timestamps down below. And this way, I feel like Cards Against Humanity just really lends itself to pick a card readings in a way that maybe the traditional tarot does not. So, stack number 1, War. What is it good for? If you have lots of conflict in your life right now and you're looking for a resolution. Second stack, what's that sound? The third stack is going to be TSA guidelines now prohibit blank on airplanes. So if you're having issues with security, if you're having issues with your own boundaries with other people, that might be a good stack for you also. Dear Abby, I'm having some trouble with blank, and I would like your advice. Next on ESPN2, the world of the World Series of blank. So if you feel like there's a lot of competition in your life, this could be a good stack for you. Now we're on number 6. So that is what will always get you laid. So if you're looking for more romance in your life, when I am a billionaire, I shall erect a 50-foot statue to commemorate blank. So what was it that made it for you? This is like a financial question of like, how is it that I'm going to become a billionaire? Because obviously that's what you'd commemorate, right? 8. In a world ravaged by blank, our only solace is blank. So if you're going through tough times, that might be a good stack for you to check out. And finally, but before I kill you, Mr. Bond, first I must show you blank. So again, if there's a lot of turmoil in your life, this might be a good one. And now let's get started. And all of these, of course, will be down in the timestamps. So you could either watch the beginning of the video again, or you can just look down below to see what each of these cards says. Alright, so let's get started with the first stack of cards. War. What is it good for? So if you've found that you have a lot of conflict in your life lately, what are some ways that you can resolve that conflict? Emotions. Indeed, war is definitely good for emotions. Conflict can actually be very cleansing if there's too much tension built up in a situation that needs to be released. War, what is it good for? Concealing a boner. Now, this could have 2 different meanings. Maybe it means that you have an overactive imagination, but concealing a boner could also be about concealing your own flaws, concealing things that you don't want others to notice about you, your mistakes. And so deflecting with conflict. War, what is it good for? Skeletor. So it is that time of year. When I record this, we are going to be in the week leading up to October, the month of Halloween. I've been Skeletor for Halloween before. Really like the character of Skeletor. And Skeletor provided an excellent foil to a very, we'll call He-Man a 2-dimensional character. Definitely a himbo. And would that show have been half as interesting if you didn't have a foil like Skeletor to make the plot move along more smoothly? So sometimes conflict is required for character development. What else do we have here? War. What is it good for? puppies. This reminds me of that Primus song, Too Many Puppies. And of course, the innocence that gets crushed by war and by conflict sometimes is not sustainable in the current world. So sometimes it's better that you get crushed by something against which you can defend yourself than being crushed by something that's going to destroy you entirely. And what is our last one going to be? War. What is it good for? Solving problems with violence. So, most of the time, I believe strongly it's not necessary to use violence to solve your problems. But there are always situations in which the only way to fight fire is with fire. And unfortunately, that might be what you are dealing with at this time. I hope my words have brought you some solace. And I do want to say that the card on the bottom of the deck this time is men. So maybe men got you into this problem. Maybe men can get you out of it. That sounds very overgeneralized, though. That's like half the population at least. All right, so stack number 2. What's that sound? What is that sound? This could be a sound in your bedroom. Maybe you have a song stuck in your head and you can't quite remember enough about it to flesh that out. The answer is tap dancing like there's no tomorrow. That's certainly a sound. Raindrops keep falling on my head. That doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. No, it means I'm tap dancing like there's no tomorrow. What's that sound? What's that sound? It sounds like cards shuffling. The Holy Bible. Maybe you, like I, am a fan of the YouTube channel Fundy Fridays. Maybe, what's that sound? Somebody muttering to themselves from the other room. Maybe they're just reading the Bible and tap dancing like there's no tomorrow all over the Bible. What's that sound? What's that sound? What's that sound? This one's too good to pass up. My collection of high-tech sex toys. So, it's entirely possible that you don't really want to know what that sound is. What's that sound? What could that sound be? Maybe you're looking for a sound. Maybe you need like a specific sound that's just gonna set it off, right? Sounds like Stalin. I can only assume they mean Joseph Stalin and not your car, Stalin. but it could be the sound of a car stalling. I'll show myself out at the end of this, don't worry. I'll be here all week. And one more. And then we might pull a consolation sometimes if I find a good one. What's that sound? Why, it's Michael Jackson. I do notice that sometimes you can only hear like the bass lines and the bass frequencies of songs if they're being played very loudly on the other side of a wall or on the other side of a building. And then what's on the bottom of the deck? What's that sound? It's the sound of winking at old people. Well, I hope that I helped you find your new sound. The next stack here is TSA guidelines now prohibit blank on airplanes. TSA guidelines. This could be about your boundaries. It could also be about regulations in your life that have changed to be more strict. Surprise sex. Now, surprise sex doesn't necessarily have to be non-consensual sex. It just has to be sex that you weren't expecting. Okay, so always keep it 100% consensual, please. But there might be a friends with benefits situation that used to be very flexible, and then all of a sudden you turn around and TSA guidelines are now prohibiting surprise sex. Where else are you producing new boundaries in your life or observing new boundaries in your life? Hot cheese. Maybe some of you are going on a diet and you have decided to cut hot cheese out of your diet. Maybe some of you are just deciding to cut hot cheese. I will admit I don't eat much cheese, but I sure do cut a lot of it. That's nasty, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be funny. Okay. What else are the TSA guidelines now prohibiting? A bitch slap. Interesting. So TSA guidelines are now prohibiting you to go upside somebody's head. Well, that's probably for the best. Maybe you've reached a point in your life where you realize that there's not really a lot of need to get physical with people. And you've started using your words more effectively. And for that, I applaud you. To me, if your TSA guidelines are no longer allowing this, that means that you are elevating. That means you're reaching your higher self and your higher state, and I am very proud of you. TSA guidelines now prohibit $1 trillion. So, yeah, let's look at this realistically. One single person is never, ever, 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 ever going to need $1 trillion. And anyone who hoards this amount of money is creating extreme disparity with others. And these inequalities will not be sustainable long term. So, good on you, TSA, keeping an eye out for the little man. What else is TSA prohibiting now? Nocturnal emissions. You might remember from the Lilith demon sleepover that nocturnal emissions can be a sign of nocturnal visitors. So, just keep that in check. If you are dealing with that at this time, this might be a warning to you that there's more going on than meets the eye, and that it's very important. First of all, clean your bedroom. Second of all, fumigate your bedroom. Third of all, you can do things like the LBRP and the Rose Cross to effectively cleanse your space. And then hopefully your nocturnal emissions will be reduced. You can also get a hobby that'll help. Not that there's anything wrong with that, only when it becomes excessive, right? And finally, TSA guidelines now prohibit heteronormativity on airplanes. Well, you heard it here first, kids. The TSA says that they're now promoting the homosexual agenda. Dear Abby, dear Verge, I'm having some trouble with blank and would like your advice. Well, I'm happy to oblige there, young citizen. So, some of you are having trouble with bioengineered assault turtles with acid breath. Well, I was having problems with this for a while too, but I found that if we zip tied their feet to the futon, they were not able to move around at night anymore. And we had a great reduction in our activity. But really, the main problem going on in this situation is not the turtles themselves. The turtles themselves are just a pawn in this bigger game. And the real problem is the bioengineering. You have to look at who is bioengineering these turtles and why, what is their motivation for bioengineering them this way. And if the answer is you, what are you so afraid of? What are you so afraid of that you would put yourself at risk, at greater risk of bodily harm? All right, Abby. Recently I've been having a problem with blank and I would like your help. An AR-15 assault rifle. Oh, I'm sorry. We have some flies in here, so you might hear that little buzzing sound once or twice. Again, I would have to ask you what you're so afraid of. Is it the assault rifle? Is it that someone is approaching you with an assault rifle? Is that what the turtles are for? Because of this person with an assault rifle? You know, Mercury is in retrograde in Libra right now, so that can kind of garble communications a bit regarding these types of situations with open enemies or with court cases. And on top of that, we've got Mars in Libra energy as well, where Mars in Libra is very much like the Knight of Swords, rushing headlong into these situations, demanding justice. And to both of these, I would say, cool your jets, people. All right, what else are you having trouble with that you want my advice about? Estrogen. Well, let's see, here's the thing. I don't think that estrogen is as much of a problem as it is a potential solution. I think that both of these issues, the AR-15 assault rifle and the bioengineered assault turtles with acid breath, maybe you should be taking a regular dose of estrogen to deal with those things. I mean, I've taken estrogen before too. Well, maybe I was on progesterone. But, you know. Again, I urge you to perhaps walk it back a bit. Dear Abby, recently I've been experiencing blank and I would appreciate your help. A bleached asshole. Again, this doesn't really fall into the problems category as it does as much the solutions. But one thing I can recommend for this is stop drinking bleach. It's not an effective cure for anything. I do believe in a certain amount of self-treatment, especially because the medical system in America is incredibly messed up right now. I do remember days when that wasn't always the case. But consuming bleach under any circumstances is inadvisable. The same goes for selenite. Don't put selenite in your water. Essential oils are not meant to be consumed internally. I know you think, well, peppermint essential oil, I can just put it into some cookies. It doesn't really work like that. I recommend using flavoring. I mean, I would also be very careful even if you're inhaling the essential oils or putting them on your skin. Just be very careful with those things. Dear Abby, I have been experiencing trouble with blank and would like your advice. Completely unwarranted confidence. Well, I don't see how that's a problem. It's how you use it that can create a potential problem. It doesn't have to. True confidence, even completely unwarranted, doesn't require for you to make it apparent to other people because you're so confident that you don't even need to express to others how you're feeling. All right. And the consolation prize is, Dear Abby, recently I've been having problems with Axe body spray, and I would like your advice. To be completely fair to Axe, there was a flavor called Phoenix that I liked a lot, and anything used in moderation is perfectly fine. Axe gets a reputation for being overused and used to cover up teenage boys' body odor. But shouldn't we just be grateful that they're making steps in the positive direction? Not everybody is going to, roll out of bed one day and purchase a $200 bottle of Aventus just to appease their peers, right? You gotta start somewhere. Find an Axe body spray that you enjoy enough to wear every day, and you'll never work a day in your life. Next on ESPN2, the World Series of blank. Take it away, Jillian Barberie. I'm kidding, of course. This is for those of you who might be dealing with competition in your life. This could be in your love life. It could also be at work. So, World Series of the morbidly obese. So, obesity, in this case, I feel like it gets a bad rap. Sometimes someone will look obese, but they're actually way more fit than someone who looks much slimmer. In this case, I'm inclined to take this card's meaning as like the fat of the land, rather than the morbidly obese. Let's treat it like greed. The World Series of Greed now taking place in your office. And there could be certain elements of sloth creeping in there too. It's really a race to the bottom, perhaps, for some of the people around you. But you don't need to get caught up in these things. Anyone who's competing to see who can be both the most greedy and the most slothful has already pretty much lost. Next on ESPN2, the World Series of Sniffing Glue. Again, this is one of those things that has to do with really appealing to the lower vibrations. There's really no better way to lower your vibration in 15 seconds or less than huffing glue. I certainly don't endorse it. I wouldn't judge people for doing it. Everyone has their youthful indiscretions, right? But both of these, I feel like, are more dealing with situations where those around you are embracing their worst selves and maybe even applauding it. Next on ESPN2, the World Series of Drowning Kids in the Bathtub. Everybody makes these lighthearted jokes about these things. And of course, this is a Cards Against Humanity reading, so I'm certainly not endorsing that kind of behavior. But let's look at this from the parts of yourself that you're killing to stay in this situation, stay in this competition. That's not quite as bad, but it's still pretty bad that you would choose to drown certain parts of yourself just to keep up with people who want to sniff glue and be morbidly obese. Because remember, I'm not saying with this card that I have anything against morbidly obese people. But by saying that it's the World Series of the morbidly obese, that implies that the competitor's end goal is to become morbidly obese, regardless of their prior situation. I couldn't remember if I had left this card in or not. Next up on ESPN2, the World Series of Eugenics. Now, I left this card in there. I had taken out a lot of the other ones that mentioned things like race or certain series, just that would take me out of it. But I left this one in there, and I'm glad I did for this question, because I think that you might be dealing with a situation where the people around you might be very racist, or very biased against people with mental illness or mental disability. A lot of workplaces are like this, and it can kind of creep in as this extra layer that people aren't really aware of, because it's not like these people come out and actually, use slurs necessarily, or say things. It's like all these little microaggressions, and that's what really makes it the World Series, right? Because these people are so good at eugenics that they might not even realize that's what's going on. We'll get one more, and then we'll see if we can get our way out of this. So, next up on ESPN2, we have the World Series of a snapping turtle biting the tip of your genitals. And snapping turtles tend to not just let go. So, this in particular, there might be OSHA violations even going on in this workplace, or this place, if it's like a social scene that you're hanging out in, and there's a lot of like competitive nature there. There might be very harmful aspects to that you're exposing yourself to. Maybe even drug use that ends up being harmful. I certainly am not against drug use, but it does have the potential to be very dangerous, and especially when a big group of people are getting together and kind of egging each other on. It's just a recipe for disaster. So how do we get out of this World Series? How do we win the World Series? The violation of our most basic human rights. So, putting yourself in a situation where there might be violations of the Geneva Convention going on, you need to find a way to escape from that. You need to extricate yourself. And I know it can seem difficult and daunting to do these things, but I promise you, in the long term, it will be worth it, and it's the only way to win the World Series of any of these things. All right, and now for those of you who are trying to find romance in your life, what will always get you laid? Well, that's certainly true. advice from a wise old black man. You know, like Isaac Hayes, or if it's your style, Teddy Pendergrass, Luther Vandross. I would say that's very apt advice. What else will always get you laid? Oh, this one for sure. A balanced breakfast. Yeah, if you get a reputation as somebody who makes a really banging breakfast, that is definitely going to get you laid. What else will always get you laid? Being fabulous. Yes, of course. Don't be afraid to be yourself, because that's how you're going to find people who are actually compatible with you, and not just people who might tolerate you for an evening at best. What will always get you laid? The terrorists. A lot of people, say that fear is an aphrodisiac, and I guess that could be true. It depends on the kind of person that you're attracted to also. But if you can put yourself in the position of the protector, then certainly you have a much better chance of getting laid. What will always get you laid? The Underground Railroad. So, being sensitive to historical matters and informed about them will definitely put you in a much better position to get laid. Being aware of the past so as not to repeat it will surround you with the kind of people that you would want to be naked around. And finally, our consolation prize card. What will always get you laid? Lockjaw. Well, I guess that could be considered a euphemism for something else. So they're not wrong there. When I am a billionaire, I shall erect a 50-foot statue to commemorate blank. To commemorate the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So maybe you are terminally ill and under the age of 18 and qualify for a Make-A-Wish Foundation wish. You could certainly wish to be financially successful. When I am a billionaire, I will erect a 50-foot statue to commemorate penis envy. There's no need to envy penises. I mean, you can buy one online quite easily. And that's the thing, is that these are things that people don't realize are accessible to them. That being financially successful is very accessible to you. But if you're only looking at the ways that you don't have a chance of becoming successful, you will suffer from penis envy. It's looking for the ways that you can slip through the back door somewhere, Or who do I know that works at CBS? You know, it doesn't always work like that, but it's not about focusing on the ways that you're not succeeding. It's about always brainstorming ways to improve your girth financially. When I am a billionaire, I'm going to erect a 50-foot statue to old people smell. Now, say what you want about old people smell, but people only get to be old if they have a lot of money. Otherwise, they probably are going to pass away from health issues before they get to be old. So if you ingratiate yourself to the elderly, you have a much more solid chance of getting money from them. When I am a billionaire, I'm going to erect a 50-foot statue to my relationship status. You know, there's really not a good way to spin this. If you're married, you really don't want to be putting that on blast. I mention it every once in a while, and I do love my spouse very much. But you don't want to advertise to other people, right? You're not trying to say, like, look what I've got. Don't you wish you had this? And if you're single, you might not want to advertise that either, because people have assumptions about being single. People assume that if you're single, there must be something wrong with your personality, and that's why you can't have companionship. Even if that's not true, you know? So, I would be very careful, actually, about how much you put out there about your relationship status. It's nice to keep it ambiguous, and that way, if people find you attractive, they don't feel like immediately shut down by it. You can kind of ease them into the idea of, like, no, I really am quite happy in my relationship. When I am a billionaire, I will erect a 50-foot statue to being fat and stupid. So this one's a good reminder that it doesn't really matter what you think about yourself in some ways. Okay, so let me say that and then walk it back. In order to really tap into your best manifestation, you are going to want to feel like you deserve these things, even if it means that you feel like everyone deserves them. But your own perceived appearance or intelligence is not it's not necessarily a guarantee that you will or will not be successful. Plenty of people are successful and are not particularly smart, and plenty of very attractive people end up not really doing much with their lives. So, being fat and stupid, if you feel like you're fat and stupid, there's hope for you yet. And now our consolation card. When I am a billionaire, I will erect a 50-foot statue to commemorate drinking alone. This might be a call out for somebody. If you find yourself drinking alone often, you will not be able to manifest things the way that you would like to. And that is just a fact. You're always going to be kind of stuck in that situation. And I certainly don't say this to be judgmental. I only mean it to be purely helpful, because I have known a lot of people who drank alone. I have been a person who drank alone. I've known people who only drank socially, and I've known people who didn't drink at all. And you'll only be tapped into yourself enough and focused enough to fully realize your manifestations if you are only consuming alcohol on a very occasional basis. And that's the same for other substances too. That's just how it works. And you can occasionally use substances to kind of wake certain things up in the self, but it's really best not to be relying upon that, but rather to be fostering those things within yourself. In a world ravaged by blank, our only solace is blank. So let's see what we've got here. We're supposed to pick two for this one, I think. In a world ravaged by dick fingers, our only solace is the clitoris. So, some of you might be exploring your sexuality and wondering, like, why am I not attracted to any of my male friends? Well, there might be a very good reason for that that's worth exploring. In a world ravaged by blank, our only solace is blank. In a world of half-assed foreplay, our only solace is punching a congressman in the face. So this is definitely for a lot of you who might be feeling very aggressive. If you find yourself getting angry easily, or feel yourself getting very aggressive about things, just check in with your body. When was the last time you really had a positive sexual experience with yourself or with another person? And maybe follow that and see where it takes you. In a world threatened by blank, our only solace is blank. In a world threatened by man meat, our only solace is full frontal nudity. That's very appropriate, because a lot of times certain nipples are found to be more permissible than others. And really, like, nipples are just nipples. And sometimes they don't even make milk. So, what's to hate? What's to love? What's to hate? I don't know. But this brings out a very important point, that until all of our nipples are free, none of them are free. And we're going to be left with a lot of man meat. In a world ravaged by blank, our only solace is blank. In a world ravaged by cuddling, our only solace is battlefield amputations. Boy, as a touch-averse person, do I ever feel that one deeply. So, this one's very much about boundaries And maybe recently you have started co-sleeping with somebody, a partner perhaps, or a pet even, and the cuddling is very nice, but sometimes you wake up because somebody's blowing directly onto your armpit, and it can be really jarring to wake up that way, and you might want to take part in some battlefield amputations. But one thing that I've found that helps is that you can create these mutually beneficial barriers with pillows. So you're not just putting the pillow like between you and the other person, but if you don't want them blowing like on your armpit, for example, you can put the pillow like here, and then they can lie on the pillow and they're not blowing on your armpit. Hope this helps. In a world ravaged by blank, our only solace is blank. In a world ravaged by getting crushed by a vending machine, our only solace is nipple blades. I guess this means that, if you're already in a losing situation, you might as well kill yourself or provide yourself with means to end your misery. And sometimes things really are quite hopeless, but usually less hopeless than they appear. So getting crushed by a vending machine, there's only a few ways that would happen. And I'm not saying that, just because you tried to steal a candy bar that you deserve to die. But size up your opponents well. Make sure a lot of these vending machines are in spaces where they can tip, but they can't quite fall all the way over. So try to target a vending machine in a hallway that's kind of narrow, so that if it falls, it won't crush you. Also work in pairs, so that if you have a friend named Nipple Blades, maybe they would be your lookout or something like that too. In a world ravaged by blank, our only solace is blank. In a world ravaged by raptor attacks, our only solace is tasteful side boob. Raptors are very dangerous. You never know when they're smiling because they're happy or when they're smiling because they're hungry. So, yeah, be very careful of the raptors. And if you have the ladies, pushed up and out, that's going to affect your ability to run from them. Whereas if you're just showing a little tasteful side boob, you're probably wearing a garment that's going to allow you to escape from the raptors and hide in small spaces that they can't get into. But remember, they're smart. They can get into all kinds of spaces. So try to go for the high ground. But before I kill you, Mr. Bond, I must show you blank. So this could be for some of you who are in contentious situations, maybe in open enmity with another person. We do have, Mars is in Libra right now, and Mercury is also retrograde in Libra, so could have something to do with that. But maybe there's one secret that you could find out about your enemy, and you'd find it out because they always give the big soliloquy, the big monologue right before they off you. And so here's what they're going to tell you in that monologue. Passive-aggressive post-it notes. So if you have somebody who's an open enemy and is leaving you these passive-aggressive post-it notes, hold on to them, because you might need to make a vision board to show to your boss. But before I kill you, Mr. Bond, I must show you permanent orgasm face disorder. So this might be a mouth breather type person who's not really aware of their facial expressions, which is perfect because you can kind of like nowadays camera shutters are really quiet. You can just quietly snap a few sabotage pictures of them for later. But before I kill you, Mr. Bond, I must show you famine. Just go into the work fridge and eat their lunch. And of course, I don't necessarily endorse these behaviors, but just, keep them in the back of your mind for later, maybe, But before I kill you, Mr. Bond, I must show you grandma naked. Find out what bothers them. Find out what gets under their skin. A lot of people suffer from trypophobia, like the fear of seeing like regular spaced holes on like a non-typical surface, things like that. Find out what their triggers are and, subtly slip them into their everyday life. But before I kill you, Mr. Bond, I must show you Keanu Reeves. So this is actually the option that I really like because Keanu Reeves is almost infamous for being incredibly nice to people. And my approach that I would encourage for you is to just absolutely slaughter them with kindness. Just be so unbelievably nice because you're so far above the situation that it has no impact on you whatsoever. That's the approach I would endorse. But before I kill you, Mr. Bond, I must show you your consolation prize, which is the devil himself. So sometimes there is a way that you can make problems go away, and it involves going to the crossroads and bring like a nice bottle of wine. It's gotta be a nice bottle of wine, and write up a contract, and you just meet up with that guy who looks like the Undertaker, and you tell him what it is you want. He'll tell you what it is you have to do to get it, and you decide if you're ready to strike that bargain. You sign your name in blood, and he'll take care of the rest. It's not quite the Keanu Reeves approach. And I would certainly only ever encourage you to do that in the most dire of circumstances. So I hope that you enjoyed your Cards Against Humanity Pick a Card readings. I had wanted to incorporate Cards Against Humanity into a card reading in some way, and I really feel like the Pick a Card readings bring out all the best aspects of the game. So if you enjoyed this video, please let me know down below if it resonated with you, if you found it helpful, if you found it amusing. I really appreciate all your love and support on the channel. Thank you for helping me reach 1,500 subscribers. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon.